after. I'm sure there'll still be folks joining us in the next few minutes, but really glad to have such a nice group with us this morning or afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. And welcome to our webinar, part of Food Waste Prevention Week, called Cool Solutions. We're going to be covering all about community fridges today with some wonderful partners. So my name is Emily Grant, and I am the Director of Florida Operations with FWPW.org. I'm going to be moderating and helping to move through all the fabulous speakers that we've got today. And FWPW.org is a nonprofit. We have an online platform that allows food providers and food vendors to donate their excess food and get them matched with nonprofits in the area. So we work nationwide, and lucky me, I get to do all of our Florida donations. So with that, I'll give you a little bit of an idea about what we're going to do together today. So we have three fabulous speakers. First, Sue Flack from Treasure Coast Community Fridges, based in Florida, is going to be sharing kind of the overall big picture look at community fridges and dive into the multiple ones that she has helped to support open here in Florida. And then we'll move into, we'll go across the country to Washington State. And Brandy Hutton with Sustainable Connections is going to talk all about how social media has really impacted in a positive way the community fridges in a lot of more rural areas. And then Joanna Corcoran, based out of Providence, Rhode Island with We Share Hope, is going to wrap us up talking about school food pantries and how that's really supported families and students in the Providence area. So with that, we're going to kick it off with our first speaker, Sue. We're going to run through all three of these sort of mini presentations. And as questions come up, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat. We're going to keep track of them. And our plan is to have time at the end to have a discussion, answer those questions, and really open the floor up to everyone. So if you're not muted, please make sure you mute yourself, although you're more than welcome to keep your video on if you'd like. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sue with Treasure Coast Community Fridges. The floor is yours, Sue.
Hi, everybody. As Emily said, I'm Sue Flack, and I have my own 501c3 called Treasure Coast Community Fridges. That's one hat I wear. The other hat I wear is I am the recycling coordinator, marketing director for Indian River County, Florida. So that's kind of the other hat that I wear. And I'm just going to touch a little bit on the aha moments that our community fridges here in Indian River County came to be. And just kind of like, I'm sure there's a lot of you saying, I just don't even know where to start. So we're going to kind of dive into that just a little bit. So I'm not going to read this slide verbatim because everyone can read, but I do want to preface it by saying that a few years ago, well, this has always been a dream of mine, to help in the community and also to prevent all the food waste that does end up in the landfill, of which we all know about. And so I looked at models of community fridge programs basically all over the world, but then concentrated on Florida in general. And I also worked with the Fridge organization, which is an international organization that helps kind of put all the community fridges on the map. So I did a lot of research with them. I will say that this whole program was very front loaded. I did all my homework and all my due diligence first, expecting the worst, but ending up pleasurably with the best. We opened our first fridge, which is what you see in this picture here, our Fellsmere fridge. And it is our busiest fridge. It is our most active, and most of our food goes through that refrigerator for sure. We also now have two other fridges. We have one on the Indian River State College Mueller campus, and then we have one in Gifford community, and we're opening a fourth in Wabasso. So all of these fridges have a life of their own. They're all very individual and unique in what they offer. And these are things that you really have to look at when you're looking to start a community fridge, really taking a look and diving deep into the demographics of where you're going to put the fridge, communicating effectively with the community, also deciding on what kind of products are going to move best in that particular community. So they all have a life of their own, whether you're going to have a pantry with it, whether it's just going to be a fridge, whether it's inside, whether it's outside. You can see this one here is an actual food pantry. So without that, I'm going to let you guys watch this video.
Well, that skipped to the end. That wasn't the plan. So everyone close your eyes. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, my little play button is near the...
So the community fridge is truly a community fridge. It's brought our community together to take on a force that's really important, and that would be food insecurity. This was an ideal location. It's just centrally located in front of City Hall, across from the Boys and Girls Club, and right near the police department, in a nice little building, which you see behind us. So inside our building, we have a refrigerator, and we also have a pantry. The community fridge's motto is, take what you need, leave what you can. So it's kind of a system that works both ways. People that need food can come and take it, and people that want to give, because that always makes us feel good, will come and give food as well. So the community fridge is run literally by a strong volunteer group and our community partners. We couldn't do it without them.
The number one thing that people have to have is food. It's the only thing they have to have to survive. And there's enough food in this country to give away. Fellsmere Community Fridge, they came to us to ask us to give the food. So we volunteered to do that. They come once a week. They pick up food that they want to take out to Fellsmere. We do that with other organizations too. We're feeding a lot of people in this community.
I live in Indian River County down in Sebastian, and I come here on a weekly basis, to pick up food. Most of the time the place is packed with really good stuff, fresh vegetables, canned goods and stuff. And I take what I need. I know I bring food, and my daughter brings food, and we put it in the pantry for people that, and it disappears quickly, you'll come maybe a day or two later, it's gone. So, people do need it. The food doesn't go to waste. The food that you do get here is, from supermarkets, and, they don't keep it after a certain date, and it's usually pretty good. Nothing wrong with it. I tell everybody that would listen to me about it. I have a few friends. As a matter of fact, one lady just came in from my church to check it out. It's a nice place to come to get free food, and anybody's welcome.
Because of our motto, take what you need and leave what you can, it's important that people remember that food waste diversion is a must, and that we need to do our part. So whenever we have anything that's in surplus that's left over, we should remember to make sure that we can bring it to the fridge, as well as take what we need.
So one of the important parts that I have found in developing a community fridge program is to make sure that you build a good, strong rapport within your community. And part of the ways that we've done that is, if you notice, the building was beautifully decorated, and we involved the Boys and Girls Club, and we also involved 2 of the local elementary schools along with the local artists to help decorate our buildings. And each one of our fridges is decorated and looks a little bit different, but the buy-in of the community support is very, very important. The other thing that you really want to look at when you are building your fridge program is having a great volunteer base. Ours is pretty large, We train all of our volunteers. We have guidelines that are typically used in what you can donate and what you can't, and that is put everywhere that you can possibly see it. So those are some important things. Doing your research before you start a community fridge program is important because of the NIMBY concept. We are covered completely 100% under the Bill Emerson Act, which is a federal legislation. Many states, including the state of Florida, which I could speak for, have also state and local laws that protect us from criminality or any kind of abuse. So that's really, really important to know, because you might get that feedback. I typically did not. I think it was really cool because a lot of times people within a community will come to us and say, we really would like a fridge here. And that's very helpful instead of you having to always reach out and look for an area for a fridge. So kind of next steps, again, forming that core team of volunteers is really important, and training them. Cleaning is also really, really important. Establishing a timeline. So reaching out to those donors that you know that are going to be your typical tried and true. So we use the food bank of Indian River County, Publix, Panera, Einstein Bagels. Those are just some of our big donators. Obviously, we work closely with Emily and her organization. And then choosing that right location, whether it's someone coming to you or you going out into the community and studying the demographics of an area that you might choose. And then finding a fridge. We had our fridges donated to us. We also had one person who purchased a fridge for us without letting us know who they were. So that was nice. And then creating your social media, which I know the other two lovely ladies will be talking more about, and building those community partners. I cannot stress how important this is, whether it's local government, whether it's your local health department, getting the word out there to other nonprofits that can help you, your donors, your volunteer group. All of that is important. And then form your committees and set your guidelines, what you want it to look like. We are a 501c3, and so money is always in question. So we do a lot of fundraising to try and to build our funds for things that you don't really think about, like, for example, cleaning supplies. We have a special volunteer group that just cleans. That's all they do. They don't do any of the food transporting. They just clean. You need money for repairs, upkeep. One of our refrigerators has already been on the fritz twice because it's in a kind of a warmer location. And then, again, depending on the elements that the fridge is subject to, would depend on that as well. So I think one of the most beautiful takeaways, if I could say for everybody, is that anybody can open a community fridge. All they need is a place that they want to have it, a power source, and people who are going to use it. And that's really what it is, because food is a commodity and everyone needs it and everybody respects it. So with that, I think that's pretty much it. This is my contact information. Anybody needs to get in touch with me. That's it.
Thank you, Sue. Sue and I get to work together on a lot of stuff, and she's fabulous. And I wanted to moderate this discussion because selfishly, I wanted to learn a lot more about the work that Sue's been doing, as well as getting even more experts from different parts of the country around community fridges, because I would love to have that in my area because we don't have that. So thank you so much, Sue. If you've got questions for Sue, go ahead and pop them in the chat. Again, we're just going to hold them till the end. And next we have Brandy Hutton. And Brandy's with Sustainable Connections and is the Toward Zero Waste Coordinator, and is going to be talking about community fridges in Washington and how social media has really impacted in a positive way. So Brandy, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. So as Emily said, I work for a nonprofit based here in Bellingham, Washington. Sustainable Connections. And I work specifically on the Towards Zero Waste team. Next slide. So we work with businesses to help them reduce their operational waste. And we noticed a common theme when we would go into food producing businesses, and that was food waste. And we knew there was a better way to manage it even beyond compost. So we started the food recovery program. How this works is we pick up surplus food from food producers using volunteers and take it to hunger relief organizations. We're unique in the hunger relief world in that we are grant funded as a waste reduction program. We do not have cold storage, and we also don't have we had not historically in the program had a public distribution point. We were simply a courier program. All right, next. So then the pandemic hit, and we went from recovering 50,000 pounds of food in a year to recovering 250,000 pounds of food in a year, and it stuck. It didn't go down. We knew we needed a public access point, and we needed something quick. We liked the idea of having something that was accessible for individuals that maybe didn't want to be seen receiving food assistance. And so we saw these grassroots organizations starting fridges all over the country, and we decided to get into the game. We went, next slide. Because we had an established program, we went straight to our health department and we asked, what do we need to do to get this approved? And we were told there was 3 big criteria points. One was a commercial refrigerator. We opted for a beverage cooler because beverage coolers are A, they're less expensive, and B, they have a glass front, which allows folks to shop with their eyes first before they reach in to grab food. Secondly, we needed qualified donors, so food producing businesses that are approved through the health department. This seemed like an accessible thing for us as we already had an established program. And the last criteria point, I mean, there's more, but 3 big ones, was a supervisor. So whoever was hosting the fridge, somebody had to be on site while it was open. At first, we were a little disappointed. We wanted it to be 24 hours, but have since learned that there's no point in it being open at 10 o'clock at night if you don't have enough food to fill it at 10 o'clock at night. And so this kind of gave us some really easy parameters to focus on stuffing it during hours that people would be awake. Okay, next slide. All right, so we knew that as soon as we started filling the fridge, we needed to get people there right away. We reached out to as many newspapers and radio hosts as we could to try to get the word out there. I kind of just by chance threw up a post on our social media channels one day when I was delivering food to the fridge, and it took off. We had over 4,000 likes on that one post. In our 20-year history as a nonprofit, that was the most successful post we had to date. So we knew that social media was going to be our means of spreading the word into our community. So we started both an Instagram and then later on a Facebook page. Okay, next. So first we focused on how do we get our community involved as far as being home donors, because there was, through the health department, there was some means that we could get home donors involved, and that was whole surplus produce from your garden and then unopened pantry items. Next slide. We got some minimal attention. We were getting noticed around the community, but nothing too big just yet. Next. We were hearing word or feedback from individuals that were free food is popular, driving across town to an empty fridge. So what we started doing was putting up stories on our social media pages with timestamps and date stamps. So that way, individuals that were following our social media channels would know when the fridge was full and wouldn't waste their resources driving across town to come stock up on some food items. Next, please. And then as part of when donors come into our program, we promise them promotion. So we thought, well, let's double up and collaborate on our social media posts with the donors that we bring into our program. And this was really successful. Next slide. This proved to double our reach, which I think makes a lot of sense. But, you know, I think it's just those little things that we forget to do sometimes when we're moving quick, is that teamwork can definitely double our impact. Okay, next step. So as you can see, we got twice as many likes, if not more, through the collaborative posts. But then also looking at the back end of our social media channels and looking at the metrics, we realized that like Reels, you know, the kind of B quality, fun, approachable little videos were actually the most successful. Next. So we put together a little video that helped people. Awesome. And then one weekend, one of our posts on our Instagram page got picked up by some of the community pages that help connect people to resources, including food. And holy moly, that was the golden ticket. Our following tripled overnight. And we started getting noticed by a lot more community members. And so needless to say, we post to community pages all the time now. Next slide. Well, and seeing the success and the growth and recognition of our program within our community through social media channels, we thought, you know, volunteers seem to be the #1 pinch point of almost any hunger relief organization. You can only grow as fast as you have a volunteer base. And so we thought, well, let's promote our volunteers and hopefully in aim to improve retention and then also just engagement in our program. We choose to recognize volunteers that are at several different levels on their journey of participating in our program, from the really seasoned folks that have put in 500 plus hours to folks that have put in just 5 hours, because we want people to know that at any point in your journey, you're still just as important to our organization. Next. You know, we do see an average lifetime hours improvement with volunteers. It's hard to say if that is just our bias on picking some of the most involved and engaged people. But we're hoping that regardless, it's just really fun to share all the wonderful things about our volunteers and why they like our program. Next. And so, of course, as I said, we are grant funded as a waste reduction program. So we can't talk about the success of our program without talking about the environmental successes as well. We have pushed nearly 8,000 pounds of food through our fridge in the first year. And that equates to a lot of savings because of all the resources that go into food production. Over 3.5 million gallons of water, and equivalent to 952 cars taken off the road for a whole year, which are just really feel good points. And our program is growing. So with the success of our first fridge, we secured more funding and started reaching out to our community. The next county down, rural Skagit County, we got a yes from the library system, who has actually proven to be a really good partner in fridges for us, because we just got a third yes here in Whatcom County. But our fridge here at the Upper Skagit Library in the town of Concrete, which is home to 800 people, opened in December, and is just a lot of fun to see. You know, in town here in Bellingham, we're a town of 91,000 people, and it is hard to keep our fridge full. It's just a race to bring in as many donors as possible. But in rural concrete, we realize that it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the donor. We only have 2 donors, and they manage to keep the fridge full because they are quality donors, such as the local grocery store. They donate all of their surplus deli food. And yeah, next. And like I said, just 2 qualified donors down there have managed to keep the fridge full and the community happy. So thank you to the hospital. The food court at the hospital has proven to be a really consistent donor for both fridges. All right. And that's me. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Brandy. I'm hoping a lot of you got some good questions, so put them in the chat. I'd love to hear about the connection with the libraries, because prior to my current role years ago, I wanted to be a librarian. So worked at a library, know how much they can provide community support in lots of areas, rural, urban, suburban, etc. So just a note for all of you that have signed up with us, this contact information and the presentation will be sent out. So if you didn't get a chance to snap someone's email or phone number, don't worry, we will be sending that out. So all right, so with that, I'm going to pass it over. Definitely last but not least, I would like to introduce Joanna Corcoran, and she is the executive director with We Share Hope, and is going to cover how school food pantries have played such an important role in Providence, Rhode Island. So with that, Joanna, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily. And thank you, Brandy and Sue. And Emily, thank you in particular for convening this wonderful opportunity for all of us to share what we're doing, and then hopefully inspire other folks across the nation to focus on feeding folks who are facing food insecurity. So thank you for that. Welcome, everybody. My name is Joanna Corcoran. I am the executive director of We Share Hope. Our mission is that we believe we can reduce food insecurity in Rhode Island by reducing food waste through retrieving surplus food from our partners in the food industry, whether that be grocery stores, caterers, or larger restaurant supply businesses. And then we take that food and we redistribute it to folks who are facing food insecurity. We do that in a couple of ways. Separate from the school food pantry project, which is what I'm mostly here to share about today, but would be remiss not to share a couple of the other ways that we work to reduce food waste and work to feed hungry Rhode Islanders. We have an on-site food pantry called Hope Market. It's a pay it forward pantry open to anyone. And it is sort of your traditional, it's as close to a traditional market as you can make it, to help reduce stigma and create a place of accessibility and feeling welcome. Folks can come in, they can select what they like right off the shelves. They have access to shelf stable items as well as meats, dairy, refrigerated items, produce, really pretty much anything that we get in. As we say, we never say no, and we always find a home for it. So you never know what you're going to find in Hope Market. We also operate Hope on the Road, and no, that's not a misspelling. Here in Rhode Island, we love to play with that word road. So here we are doing with our own little take on it. And that program delivers up to 50 pallets of food every week, completely free of charge, to other organizations in the community that feed their communities, that are trusted within their community and known as a place where people down the street and neighbors can come and get food when they need it. And we find that really helps us magnify our impact and our ability to get food out to folks, having those community partners. Next slide, please. And lastly, we manage the largest school-based food pantry program here in the state of Rhode Island. We started about 2 years ago with 1 pantry. We're now up to 15 and growing. We are projected to add 5 more before this year is over. And that is what I am really here to talk about today. We believe that when we partner with organizations that offer complementary services to folks who might also be people that are experiencing food insecurity. We're helping to reduce the friction in accessing food. So if you are in school and you're hungry, our pantries in the schools are there for the students. If you are looking to get health services, we partner with other community groups that offer health services so that we can help make sure that while folks are taking care of one area of their life, they can also get some access to food. I would be remiss if I didn't say that the big reason why this program has taken off the way it has is thanks to a very important partnership that we've established with the Rhode Island Department of Education. The Commissioner of Education is a huge supporter of our work and the overall concept that when you're taking care of a student, you need to take care of the student 360. So what's happening at home, and it's not just about the grades that are being received in school. And so her partnership on this has really opened a lot of quite literal school doors for us, and helped us launch those pantries in 15 different schools now. So here's how it started. We, about 2 years ago, right before Christmas, the Christmas break, there was a post on social media by an educator here in the Providence public school system who just wanted to remind everybody and all of his friends and followers that as a lot of kids were looking forward to going into winter break and looking forward to time off from school and maybe some presents, he had a lot of students that were not. Because when they went on school break, they were going to miss those school breakfasts and those school lunches. So while everyone else is excited, they were really feeling stress around what's happening with their access to food while they were on break. And so we reached out to him and we said, what can we do to help? And from there, this first little test school food pantry was born. And I'd like you all to just sort of watch a video about it now.
Hi, my name is Pamela Robinson. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I work at Central High School as a senior community specialist. We have so many students that come in that are legitimately hungry. They'll come to my office asking me for snacks. They'll ask their teachers for snacks, but they're only going to ask people that they feel like they can trust, because there's a lot of shame that comes with food insecurity that it prohibits them from really speaking their truth and what's going on in their house. So that's why that building rapport is so important. But now, with a centralized food pantry at Central High School, they don't have to go through all of that necessarily. They can just come right down. Students know where it is, parents know where it is, and then they're able to get what they need.
My name is Joanna Corcoran. I'm the Executive Director of We Share Hope. We retrieve surplus food from our partners in the food industry, and we share it throughout Rhode Island with folks who are facing food insecurity. We recognize the fact that students in school who are hungry have a harder time learning and retaining information, focusing in the classroom, and forming good social relationships. We've been partnering with public schools since We Share Hope was founded in 2008. Central High School stepped up right away and said yes, formed great partnerships over there with Pam and Julie, and we were able to put together this food pantry in record time. Feeding children is just the right thing to do.
Joanna, who is the executive director of We Share Hope, has been instrumental in this process, because whenever I connect with her about some of the needs that we have here, she has been able to not only deliver but exceed the expectation of what we've asked for. So for example, we were having problems with storing more of the fresh foods because our refrigerator is small, and she had the idea because there was an extra refrigerator that they had and they donated it to us and it was larger. So what does that mean? What that means is we're able to store more fresh foods for people. We're able to nourish more people, and people are able to get more of the things that they want to cook culturally because of having a refrigerator. And that's only one of the many examples that Joanna has been able to help this food pantry here with We Share Hope and Central High School. I know when I've talked to other community specialists, this program is needed in their schools. And so my larger vision is to have this in every school in the district, and I don't see why we can't. I really want to emphasize the collaborative process that we've had here. because before there were teachers that were donating and bringing in food from their homes. There was Miss Walker, who was literally taking stuff and begging, borrowing, and pleading from teachers to say, please donate to our food pantry. Before, there was Julie with Sodexo trying to get food to make sure these students were okay and going out and shopping at these places. So it's really important to know all of the people who have played a role in making this successful and who will continue to grow it. This is what grassroots looks like.
Okay, so that's how it started. And now these are the logos for the 15 schools where we have really just flown, and it has far exceeded our expectations from 2 years ago. So we are just really thrilled with the traction and the reception that we get from each of the schools. So had to tie in the name of the webinar, which just I loved so much. Our cool solution. So Pamela on the video referred to the conversation that she and I had initially about the fridge. And that's really kind of, I think, the big tie-in for our conversation today. Being able to find a partner like Gill's Appliances, which is a local family-owned appliance franchise here in Rhode Island. I believe they have 4 or 5 locations. They're incredible. They are run by 2 sisters who truly believe in the mission of We Share Hope and food insecurity and community in general. And when we reached out to them, we initially said, we're raising money for these school food pantries. We would like to purchase these appliances. Hopefully you'd be willing to maybe give us a little nonprofit discount. And when they heard about what we were doing, they said, no, we want to donate the refrigerator and the freezer for the schools that you're opening these pantries in. And so they have now donated at least 1 fridge and at least 1 chest freezer for pretty much every school food pantry that we've opened. And that's been such a game changer, because the ability to offer the fresh foods, the produce, the meats, I mean, we always tell the teachers to tell the students, this is to supplement, your weekly food purchasing. It's not to take care of all of it and replace it, but to be able to send meat home with families, with the prices of meats now being what they are, it just leaves room for other things that they can then purchase at the store. So our cool solution, those fridges and freezers have been an absolute game changer. I gotta tell you, I was in one of the pantries a few months ago and we delivered strawberries, and some of the kids came down to shop in the pantry, and the looks on their faces when they saw cartons of strawberries, I mean, you would think it was Christmas morning. So it's really incredible. Every time we open a food pantry at a school, we do a ribbon cutting. We always make sure that we bring in our sponsors, who we'll talk about in a few minutes, but we always include them in the ribbon cutting. We give them an opportunity to speak if they'd like to. We involve the students if they're available. The superintendent of schools for the district, he mostly always shows up. The principal's always there. The commissioner of education comes, and we do a really nice ribbon cutting. So I just wanted to throw in a couple pictures of some of those ribbon cuttings. It's definitely a time of celebration. And our pantry partners that help us make this happen. So although we rescue surplus food, we made a commitment early on in the process of establishing the school food pantries that we would always deliver very good quality, key items that are consistently needed. So in order to do that, we realized that we would need to purchase some food, because when you rescue food, as everyone else can understand, you never know what you're going to get. So one week you might get 3 pallets of yogurt and then maybe not see yogurt again for another month. So we wanted to make sure that we had the funds so that we could purchase what we needed to, so that we could supplement whatever it was that we were rescuing. So it costs about $10,000 per school year for us to open and sustain and purchase the items that we need for those for the pantries. So before we open any pantry or before we agree to open a pantry, we always find a funder first. That is the first order of business. If a school reaches out and says we'd love to open a pantry, we say great, and then we go and we search for the funding, and then we tell them yes, we can do it, or we haven't been able to find funding yet. So some of our amazing pantry partners are Stop and Shop, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island, Bank Newport, which is one of our local banks here, and Colette Travel. And they all engage at different levels. Stop and Shop, it's important to note, they have an incredible school food pantry program that they actually put on through their corporate social responsibility division. And they are a very important partner to us because they have helped us get a number of pantries off the ground. They supplied us with the $10,000 per pantry. And then in addition to that, they also provide the schools that host the pantries with an additional bunch of gift cards as well, depending on the size of the school. So a Stop and Shop, We Share Hope collaborative pantry is really kind of the really exciting pantry as well. So those are some important things to note, that funders are important. And then I wanted to, I think, was there another slide, Emily, or was this the next one? Oh, okay. Oh, that's the last one. Okay, great. So I just wanted to leave also with some quotes from some of the students that we've had an opportunity to serve. And the first quote is actually from an administrator at Mount Pleasant High School, where they noticed, and they can't exactly say it's because of the food pantry in the school, but they've noticed that there's been an increase in attendance. And the theory, or the working theory, was that the students who were struggling with food insecurity were making sure to come to school because when they came to school, they could get food to bring home. Do we know for sure? No, but that was conjecture. And I said, you know what? I'll take that home. I like that. I like that little question. And then two just really important quotes from some students that are recipients of the food pantry. And it really hits home for us as a team about the work that we're doing and how we're helping and extending the impact. And you can read those yourself. I'm not going to read them right now because they'll probably make me tear up. And then the last slide before my contact information there is our vision. And our vision collectively around these school food pantries is that we can ensure that the knowledge being shared in the classroom is not drowned out by the rumbling of empty stomachs or the anxiety about what will be on the dinner table. And when we silence this noise, we leave space for students to fully engage with their education. When we feed for the future, we ensure clear pathways out of poverty, making Rhode Island a stronger community. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share the work that we're doing up here in Rhode Island, and always would love to chat or collaborate. So feel free to reach out anytime. That's my contact information. Thank you, Emily.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've got a lot of really good questions from the chat, and I am doing a little time check here that we have about 7 minutes left together. So we're going to dive into the questions now. And then for any of you that haven't had your questions answered, if you'd like to stay on, you're welcome to, so we can answer those and get into it. So thank you so much for so many people who've been engaged. So first question, I think this is for probably for Sue. Are there any instructions for clients of the fridge as to how much food they should take at any one time?
No, we don't judge. So people often ask me, what happens if someone goes in and takes all the food? Then I say they really needed it.
Yeah. Thanks, Sue. This can be for any of you. Who pays for the electricity for the fridges?
I would step up to say it's usually the people where the fridge is located. For example, the city of Fellsmere, where our Fellsmere fridge is, their cost is $7 a month for electricity for that pantry, and they have generously donated that. Also, in an example like the Mueller campus, which is also an inside fridge and pantry, that's dual purpose. So they also have a closet in that area for college students that don't have clothes for job interviews. So it's also in an area where it's like a game room. So whoever you partner with is usually who will take care of that. But that's a really good question.
For some of our sites, we come up with an agreement ahead of time before we even open the fridge as to who plays what role. And we feel like the electricity bill is a pretty minimal one for price of participation for any host site. And I will say that electricity can vary depending on if your unit is inside or outside. We have one fridge that is outside encased in a shed and one that is inside in a lobby. And as you can imagine, temperature definitely affects our outside unit. Commercial refrigerators are not meant to be put outside. So we learned in our first year that you need a maintenance budget for replacing your unit if it breaks down. But yeah, depending on where you're at and what the climate is like, you might want to be strategic in where you place your fridge, place it in a shady spot. So that way, if it's very sunny, your refrigerator isn't like constantly trying to hold temperature in a very hot environment. And the same thing for cold, you know, have it insulated in some way in some sort of shed.
Really good points. Yeah, I think the maintenance is something that we probably forget about, right? You plug it in, you're good to go. It's not always exactly how things end up, right? And so here's a question. This one is about someone interested in organizing an informal community fridge within their 60-unit apartment complex where people can drop off and pick up leftovers they know that won't go bad. They're interested in hearing takeaways just for the informal operations or the feasibility of sharing prepared food.
I'll start if you guys don't mind. And just say that that is also part of front loading your operation. So you have those guidelines, because under the Bill Emerson Act, it says if you share food in good faith, meaning that you have to make sure that it's done correctly. So we in particular have guidelines that somebody obviously can't put a half of an eaten salami sandwich in there, you know, as a donation. But if it's labeled, it's dated properly, and it's FIFO LIFO when something expires, then they're more than able to put it in there.
Thanks so much, Sue. Just the FICO for those, so first in, right, first out, FIFO. Okay, just making sure everyone's got that acronym. Brandy, did you want to answer that as well?
You know, through our program, home donors cannot cook meals to put into our fridges, but home donors can participate by their surplus garden produce or whole produce, as well as, you know, cleaning out their pantry. Anything that is unopened can be donated. We do take expired food on the pantry side, as well as the fridge side. We know that Best By, Use By dates are all simply guidelines by food scientists to symbolize peak freshness and not necessarily food safety. And so, you know, we let people know that these are short dated items and to use their best judgment. And we know that if something is a day old on the prepared side or a month old on the pantry side, that it's probably okay and to use your best judgment. Yeah.
And I think, Brandy, you had mentioned earlier too about connecting, you know, with your local health department. So I know in the state of Florida, right, county by county can change. So wherever you are, I definitely recommend getting a clear picture on that. That'll be very helpful. Okay, so I'm just doing a quick time check again. For those of you that need to hop off, we're almost at time. Completely understand we're going to be sending out this presentation and the recording and the questions. If you have time and would like to stay on for another 10 minutes or so, I'd love to continue answering and having those questions, but if you can't, no problem. And we'll make sure that whoever had registered for this will be receiving an email with all of that. So yes, do stay on, but I completely understand if you need to hop off. All right, so with that, we've got next question Are beverage coolers as effective as refrigerators, keeping product cold, obviously not frozen food?
Well, I know speaking for my organization, we chose beverage coolers because they're less expensive than a standard commercial refrigerator, and we're required to do so because they hold temperatures better. Are they effective? I don't know. I just know that we've only done glass front beverage coolers. Because it is a self-serve refrigerator, I just love that people can shop with their eyes first before they reach in. They work for our program. They're less expensive when you need to replace them, we've learned.
Also,
Yeah,
to add to
super.
that, I would imagine that since you're not opening and closing the refrigerator to look inside to see what's in there, you're not letting that air out, so folks can kind of stand and peruse before going through the contents. So that probably is helpful.
Joanna, I've got a question from you, for you rather. Was there any difficulty finding room at the schools to have a pantry or to have the fridges?
So flexibility is key for that. And having a school partner and a person at the school that understands that is really important. Our pantries are in everything from an unused classroom, like you saw in the Central High School video. And actually, it's moved since that video was taken. It's in an even larger classroom now, all the way to basically a closet that runs the length of one wall that has sort of sliding doors. And we were able to take the shelving out and slide a fridge in and then put the shelves next to it for the shelf stable items. So it really depends on what each school has available. Our high school in Newport, Rhode Island, actually put it in the library. They parceled out a corner of the library, and then they built temporary walls to give it a nice sort of section there. So it really depends. It just depends on the school as far as the difficulty goes. We've only had, I think, one or two schools that said no because space was an absolute problem for them in general. But each one is a little bit different, and no two are alike. I can promise you that.
And I think considering only 2 have said no, but 15, right, so far have opened. So that's pretty good. And I think that I've seen school pantries open up here in Florida, and it's the same thing. It just depends on the space in the classroom and where that can be,
Exactly.
plugged in.
Yeah. And Newport's actually building a new high school, and they have allocated a room especially for the school food pantry into their architectural plans. So that's heartening to see. I mean, what they have now is great, but when they move, we were worried that we would lose the room, but no, they're carving out a space specifically for it.
That's fabulous. All right, another question. This is for any of the presenters. Do you know where the food from your donors was going before? Was it all going to the landfill, or did some of your donors already have established donation practices?
Want me to start, guys? Most of it, I'd say 90% of it was going to the landfill. We do have a lot of gleaning here, and so we get a lot of produce now into our fridges from local citrus and things like that, which is a big plus because they'll be the first to tell you that product was definitely going into the garbage. So it's really, I think, reduced a lot of that food waste diversion from the hill.
Yeah, I think in our community, some of it was going to landfill. We have a curbside compost program. We're very fortunate here. Some of it was going there, but we all know best use is to feed people first. And so this is an opportunity to do something better with your food. But most of it was landfill or composted.
Ours is landfill and perhaps a small sort of donation program, but for the most part, our value proposition is that we will come and take everything off their hands and go through it ourselves and go through our own quality control. So we're often going through pallets layer by layer, and sometimes it's a messy job, but it pays off in the end.
question. This one is about Stop and Shop. Do you have the contact for the Stop and Shop Corporate Social Responsibility Department? Someone was asking. So if you do and you're comfortable to share, would you put that in the chat, Joanna?
I do, and would prefer to collect information and pass it on to the folks over there.
Sure. Okay. So this
Yeah.
is Jay Levine had asked. I don't know if they've jumped on or off yet. But if you're still here and want to put your email and directly send that to Joanna here in the chat, you can do that and then get connected that way.
That'd be perfect. Yeah, I just don't want to inundate them with with folks afterwards and be like, "What was that?" They were excited to hear about this today, though. So
okay, good. At least they'll be somewhat prepped that they're going to get
Correct.
maybe some questions. So this is about cleaning. So who is responsible for cleaning outgoing and going through the fridge, and who stocks it?
For our program, it's a responsibility of volunteers. We mobilize volunteers to pick up the food and deliver it to the fridge. And those volunteers, just a good wipe down and emptying the trash cans is part of the duties. But we also, in Washington State, if you work for a food business, you're required to hold a food certificate, qualifying that you're safe to handle that food and know the rules of how to handle that food safely. And so our program pays for that certificate for volunteers, and we feel like it's another way to support them in employment as well.
So our core team coordinator, so our volunteer, we have a team coordinator, and she coordinates food pickup schedules. She also coordinates cleaning schedules. She also coordinates maintenance and shopping schedules. So all three of those are run by our very wonderful coordinator, and they're done. It's done by the volunteers. Some people only like to clean. Some people only like to pick things up. Some people, it depends on what they want to do, how they step up.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's pretty amazing, people who volunteer this, time to be part of these things. It's pretty wonderful. And I know, Brandy, you were highlighting in social media with that earlier too, of, how people have contributed. We're gonna do 2 more questions, and then because you all have so many great ideas, we can continue that offline, and you can reach out to any of us afterwards. So this is a school question. Question: does the school contribute any of their leftover food to the pantry?
Yes, some of them do. So each school, so we have a couple of service providers that work in the cafeteria. I think they're national. So Sodexo, Aramark, are 2 of them, and it depends on the district. And so, for example, in that video, Sodexo is the Providence public school provider, and they will provide leftover food that's not being used when they're doing their cafeteria distributions. Sometimes they'll contribute some here and there. The quality depends, but that's really up to the school to make a decision on. So what we do is we get the school set up with the shelving and the appliances, and we do the weekly the food deliveries. But then beyond that, we basically don't tell them how to distribute the food to their students. We trust them to know the best way, and then we leave it up to them as to whether or not they're willing to accept food from other sources. But I do know that some of those districts do accept food and get food from the actual school meal providers as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Through
all right.
the food recovery program, we accept food as well from the schools. They've proven to be actually a really great partner. Originally there was some hesitation around donating school food because of the federal free and reduced lunch program. But we quickly recognized that, this food is being donated to people that would qualify because they are in need of food assistance. And so it's a win-win.
Brandy, we're going to just do this one last question. I do see there's a bit more coming in, which I love, but we're going to just wrap it up with this last one. This is for someone who lives in a more rural area, which I think goes hand with a lot of the work that you've done. Any success at starting community fridges outside of cities? Recommendations for how to approach this?
From my experience, you go into a small community and you're either going to be accepted as a whole or rejected as a whole. So you sort of cross your fingers and wish for the best. When we did outreach into our rural location, we just went in and we just started talking to all of the folks that are already involved in resource support and hunger relief, and asking them, if they would want to be involved and do they have any suggestions for us. Just get to know your community, and let them know that you're there to support them, but they are going to be able to work alongside you and build a project that works for their community because they know their community better than you do. So just, be willing to help, but also be willing to take a back seat and let them be a part of that planning process.
What a perfect note to end on. So I just wanted to say thank you all for those who stayed on with us. And big thank you to Sue and Brandy and Joanna for your expertise and your great answers to these questions. I know there's more coming in, so please don't think of this as the end of the discussion. We will follow up and make sure you got contact information. And I hope this inspires some of you to either volunteer at community fridges in your own area, maybe start one, and get connected to the folks in your area doing food recovery and food rescue and reducing food waste. So with that, thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us. And please make sure you check out foodwastepreventionweek.com for all the other amazing webinars that are taking place over this next week and in-person events as well. So thank you all. Really appreciate it.